Hello everybody, this is my second online art lesson and I'm really excited to be doing it. The first video that I did was for teens and adults and it was just a still life bowl of fruit. We worked our way through a painting of that. This is going to be another variation of that lesson that is more appropriate for younger kids that would like to participate in these lessons. A few quick notes to parents before you set your kids down with this video. We'll talk about the materials and things that you need to gather, but also how to use this video with them. There are a few different ways that you can go about it depending on the age of your child and what you think will work best for them. One thing that you can do if they're of the appropriate age is you can just let them watch the video and work along with it, or maybe watch all of it and get all the instructions first and then do the project on their own afterwards. Another thing that you can do is you can watch this video for them and then sort of facilitate the project for them and sort of figure out what the steps are and then teach it back to them. I know that I have a toddler and she still hasn't quite figured out how to respond to directions from videos quite as well as she does directions from people yet. So sometimes it can be good for you to get the steps from the video and then relay it back to them. You can also do it together. You can both work through this video together, or you can see if they are ready to maybe try working alongside you with the other version of the lesson. I, in my experience, have noticed that it's usually around age 7 or 8 that kids are really ready to start rendering things from photos and from life into their artwork. So we're not going to focus so much on today making this still life just like it is in the photo. Instead, we're going to start working on shapes and how shapes make up different images. So let's talk about materials and the things that you're going to need. If you saw the adult and teens version of this lesson, then the materials are mostly going to be the same, but the paint selection is a little bit different because we're doing a different painting technique. The colors that you'll need, and just use any kind of acrylic or tempera or craft paint that you have available around your home, or what you can find cheaply at a craft store or Walmart or somewhere like that. I'm just using craft paint. The colors that you're going to want for this are yellow, red, black, or brown. You don't necessarily need both. It's sort of up to you what you have or what you prefer. And orange and white. And then we'll want some additional colors, and that can just be based on what you have or what your child's favorite colors are. I'm going to use this green color that I have here. You'll always want to keep a paint rag handy, some baby wipes for messes. When working with very little kids, it's always good to work in an area where it doesn't matter if they make a mess, or you can put a drop cloth down for any spills that happen. We're working with medium-sized brushes, so not very tiny brushes, but not very big ones either. We've got our cup of paint water, which is an old cup that already has paint on it, so I'm not super concerned with keeping it clean. For our paint palette, we've just got a plate that is wrapped in aluminum foil. You can also wrap it in plastic wrap, and that way whenever you're done, you can just take this off and throw it in the trash. You will also want a picture of a still life, preferably a bowl of fruit. I found this one just online. It was a free stock image, so it's really high quality, high resolution. Alright, and then also some drawing materials for this lesson. So you can get a marker, pencil, and just some drawing paper. I'm going to scoot this a little bit closer so that you all can see what I'm working on here. And at this point, if your child's not already watching with you and they want to work along with this video, this is a good time for them to jump in and start watching. Okay, so today we are going to be painting this bowl of fruit. that you see over here. And I should mention really quick, I left out of the materials list, canvas. We need something to paint on. But before we start painting, we're gonna do some drawing. And the reason that we're gonna start drawing is because I want you to look at this bowl of fruit and not see it as a bowl of fruit. I want you to see it as a bunch of different shapes. So when you're thinking about drawing something like this, it might seem kind of scary or hard. But really, this is just a bunch of different shapes. Shapes that I bet you already know how to draw, or that will be really easy for you to learn how to draw. So get out your drawing paper and a pencil or a crayon. I'm going to use a marker just so it's nice and dark and you can see the lines that I'm making. So your piece of paper isn't going to look like this. It's going to be a blank piece of paper, but I've already got some shapes on here just as a guide for us. All right, so the first shape that we're going to draw, I bet most of you already know how to do, and that's just a circle. Let's just draw a nice big circle. Doesn't even have to be perfect, no erasing. Don't worry about going back and trying to make it the most perfect circle ever. We actually don't want perfect circles today. We want circles that are a little bit different. So now that you've drawn that circle, let's practice a little bit more and draw a different size circle. Let's draw one that's a little bit smaller. So we know that we can do this. We can do circle shapes, we can do them big, we can do them small. Let's see what other kind of shapes we can do. Now I said that we weren't going to work with perfect circles today, and I really meant that. I want us to work on drawing some more circles, but this time I want you to intentionally make them a little bit messed up. In other words, I don't want a nice shaped circle like that. I want something that's got a little bit of curve to it. It can be really curvy, like it almost looks like a blob, or it can be just a little bit curvy. Practice drawing some different sized circles that have these little curves and bumps in them. Alright, so once you've done that, let's come down to this shape right here. This shape kind of reminds me of a big smiling face or a big grin. I don't know how many of you know who the Cheshire Cat is from Alice in Wonderland, but this sort of reminds me of his big smile that he has. So let's draw in the space that we have left a big shape like this that just sort of looks like a big toothy grin. All right. Now let's come in and draw something very similar to that shape, but a little bit bigger. So this almost still looks like that big grin, right? But it's a lot bigger. So let's practice drawing something like that that's bigger. All right, and if you need to practice any of those some more, you can, but I have a feeling that you did great and that you knew how to draw all of those shapes or figured it out pretty quickly. So you may not realize it, but you just drew your bowl of fruit. It didn't seem that way probably because all the shapes were broken up into individual parts, into smaller parts. But you just drew everything you need to know how to draw to make our bowl of fruit. So let's switch over to our canvas. And you can choose to make your canvas facing this way, or you can make it face this way. You may not even be working with canvas. You may be working with some sort of paint paper, and that's fine. You can get it taped up to the wall or wherever your painting station is. Make sure you've got all your materials within reach. And we're going to get out our paint palette, and you may need some help from your mom or dad or whoever is helping you with this. And we're going to put a little bit of either brown or black onto our paint palette. You get to pick which one you want. I'm going to do some brown. I'm going to get one of my smaller brushes, And the first thing that we drew, the first shape that we drew was a big circle. So I want you to paint a circle. Doesn't have to, I don't want it to be so big that it takes up our whole canvas, but I don't want it to be so small we can't see it. So just do a good medium-sized circle. Now let's come back and do some circles. Remember the second circles that we drew were kind of funny shaped. Let's do some funny shaped circles. And we can do several of those all around. Nice, funny shaped circles. So you've almost got, it looks like a pile of rocks or a pile of circles. Now the third shape that we did were those big Cheshire cat grins. We're going to do that again, but this time I want you to try to do it upside down, and I want you to do it right on top of these circles. Let's do 2 or 3 big Cheshire cat grins, just turned upside down. And then our last shape was the nice big toothy grin, right? Just like these shapes up here, but a little bit bigger. So let's do that. Okay, and what you have here is a bowl of fruit. You painted a bowl of fruit. Good job. See, just a bunch of simple shapes put together and we get our bowl of fruit. So now, let's start adding some color to this. Let's put some red, and again, you may need some parents' help with this. Red, yellow, and orange on our paint palette. So, if you're using a picture, like what I have here, you can sort of look and see where your apples might be and where your oranges might be, but you can also just decide for yourself. Since, you know, apples are usually a little bit bigger than oranges in some cases, I'm going to make my bigger circles red to be my apples. And it's okay to go over your line that you just outlined your circle with, because what that does is it actually makes a nice little shadow around the outside of our apple. So just pick however many little circles that you want to paint red, and this will turn them into our apples. Maybe we've got some apples in the bottom of the bowl there. So I'm going to paint that part red. Alright, so we've got some nice red apples. Okay, now let's move over to our orange. And whatever circles you have left that didn't get made into apples, let's turn those into our oranges. Okay, and now let's move on to those big toothy grins. Not the biggest one just yet, but these smaller ones up top. These are going to be our bananas. So let's paint those in yellow. I'm working very fast just so you always kind of know what the next step is going to be. But don't worry if you're not painting as fast as me. You should be able to take your time and really have fun with your painting. Okay, I'm going to come in very carefully with my yellow and go around those red apples. If I accidentally catch some of that red paint, it's going to turn part of my banana orange, which might be kind of cool. So don't worry if that does happen. But if you don't think you want any orange or red on your banana, be really careful going around those places. Or you can always just give it some time to dry. Alright, so now let's move down here to our big wide grin, the biggest one we have. This is going to be our bowl. Now, I said in the beginning when we were talking about materials to have some extra colors on hand, and this is where those are going to come in. I picked out green, and so I'm actually going to put some green on my palette. But I still have some yellow left. So I'm going to mix this green and this yellow together, and that's going to give me this really bright lime green. You don't have to mix colors if you already have the color that you want straight out of the bottle, but you certainly can if you want to. So just figure out whatever color you want your bowl to be and go ahead and paint that in. Now when you're painting these different shapes, you can think about the shape of a bowl, right? Think about what the bowl is, this sort of sweeping shape across. So we can do brush strokes like that, right? Brush strokes that match the shape of the bowl. And you can do the same thing when you're working on your fruit too. Instead of just painting up and down like this across your fruit, you can paint it in a very circular motion. And then that's gonna make your brush strokes form a nice piece of fruit. All right, so once I've got my bowl painted in, I'm gonna come back with a bigger brush if you have one, and this time I'm going to get my dark green. And now I want to paint my background. Yours may not be green at all. Yours could be pink or blue or red or whatever other colors you've picked out, or maybe you just want to leave it white. That's perfectly okay too. Whatever color you choose. Now really take your time when you're going around the edges of your fruit to make sure you don't smear any of it together. And we're going to fill in our whole canvas. And again, I may be doing this a lot quicker than what you're able to. Don't worry about that at all. I'm just going nice and fast so that you always know what's coming next. But you take your time and even stop or pause the video if you have to and let yourself catch up some. Nice and careful around the edges of my bowl. Okay, so I've got my entire canvas filled in. Now, one thing about fruit is that when fruit is sitting out somewhere, like on a table or in a basket, it's got a few different things happening. It's got a darker side where there's no light, and then it's got these places where the light hits it and it makes these nice bright white spots. Those spots are what take our fruit from looking like these flat shapes and make them look like round objects, make them look like real fruit. So get some white onto your paint palette, and it doesn't have to be a whole lot because we're not going to use a whole lot. Get a smaller, nice, clean brush, and you may even want to let your painting dry just a little bit before you go into this next part. All you're going to do is look at a picture if you have one, or you can just sort of look at what I'm doing with the fruit in my painting. I'm going to say that I have a window sitting right off here in the background of my painting. you can come in and paint that window into your background, which is just a square. Now, if your paint is still wet, the white's gonna sort of make like a light green or whatever your color is of your background. And that can be a neat effect. So you can let it do that or wait until your paint is completely dry and paint your window in then. So now I know that the sunlight's coming in from the window over here and shining on my fruit in these places. So I'm just going to give my fruit some quick little splotches of white in the places where the light is hitting it. See how I'm doing that? Nice and quick. And for our bananas, since they are long, we can do long streaks of white. And for our bowl, we can do the same thing around the edge of our bowl. And maybe even right along the top of our bowl too. Now, you have a bowl of fruit. And you can come back and do more with this if you want to. You can add more things to your background. Maybe you want to put some polka dots or some stripes on your bowl. Or maybe you want to add some different things into your bowl of fruit, like some grapes. Just make sure if you're going to add anything else to this, you might want to, again, let your paint dry a little bit so that you can actually create those new shapes and not have all your paint mixed together. So there's your bowl of fruit. And parents, back to you for a minute. If you would like to continue doing these lessons yourself or to have the children in your life be able to do them, you can go to my website, which is just iammayhamrick.com, and go to the online art classes button and subscribe to these videos. It is a $40 a month subscription, but that will give you access to both the children's and adult videos. So the beauty of that is not only is it a lot cheaper than what in-person private art lessons would be, but you would also be paying per person for those lessons. This way, you just pay the one monthly subscription fee, and it works for you, your children. If your children have friends that come over, they can use these to have a little painting party, and we may do lessons sometimes that are specifically geared to be more party activity oriented. So I'd love to hear your feedback, if there's anything I could be doing better or anything that I can make more clear or suggestions. Anything that you need, just email me, mayhamrick@gmail.com. And also, I would love to see finished pictures of your artwork, so please send me those as well. Thanks.